Check, 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 check. Voiceover Coffee Shop, episode number 31.
Welcome to the Voiceover Coffee Shop, where we share our morning with some of the finest names in voiceover. And now, here's your host, voice actor Andrew Morrison.
Hi there, my name is Andrew Morrison, and welcome to the Voiceover Coffee Shop, where we start our day with some of the finest names in voiceover. If you'd like to know more about me, feel free to visit my personal website at www.andrewdmorrison.com. In this episode, we have coffee with my dear friend, Marc Graue. Marc is an award-winning voiceover artist who has produced demos for the stars like John DiMaggio and Randy Thomas, and has been featured in some of the most iconic games and animated series of our time, from Avatar: The Last Airbender, Ratchet and Clank, and World of Warcraft, to name just a few. In this episode, we talk about auditions from the director's perspective, putting the essence of you into an MP3, road mapping the script to find out what the client really wants, and secrets to demo production. How are you doing today, Mr. Graue?
I'm doing awesome, man. It's nice. Thank you for having me. It's nice to kind of just sit down and get a little reprieve from all the crapola in the studio and just sit down and talk for a little bit, man, and have some fun.
Absolutely. So how do you take your coffee in the morning? How does your day start?
Black with caffeine. What's funny is back when I was in radio, it was, of course, everybody smoked as well. So it was coffee and cigarette, but I mean, it was just a constant barrage of coffee. Now I have a cup in the morning and I'm usually good to go. Just because it's a very quick, this process, my day starts at about 6:30 to 7 a.m. in the morning, returning emails, because bi-coastal kind of stuff, getting auditions turned out, that sort of thing. And then start with actual jobs, usually at about, depending, but usually around 9 a.m. And then that goes, and then we'll slip in, a few coaching sessions as well. So,
Gotcha. You've got a pretty packed day.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's not unusual, to do a 12, 14 hour. Now I'm trying, obviously, because of this back surgery thing that I had, go a little bit slower, because they're saying it, you get stupid. Oh, well, I'll feel great. Oh, I can do this. And it's like, no, don't do, just something as mundane as bending down to pick up a package. Oh, Amazon. It's like, oh shit, shouldn't have done that. So just, it's a slow process basically. But what it is basically is payback for all those years of surfing big waves and karate and all of that kind of fun stuff. And now body's going, all right, buddy, time to pay up, So that was basically it.
So what's your origin story into this industry? Like, where did you start? Well, you said you used to do karate?
Oh yeah. I did all kinds of MMA stuff. I did all kinds of stuff back when I was a stupid ass kid. Sure. I'm an old guy now, so now body is going, that's too bad. Sucker. Now it's time to pay. No, I got involved with Dawes Butler. For those of you who don't know, was the voice of Quick Draw McGraw. Dawes is my godfather. I grew up at Channel 5 here in LA. I was actually born in Hollywood at Queen of Angels. That's why I'm screwed up. And so one of the rare people was actually born in Hollywood. My dad used to introduce it at Channel 5, KTLA here on Gower Street. And back then, as a very, very young kid, a couple of guys, Dawes Butler and Stan Freberg, did a live puppet show called Time for Beanie. And hey, Beanie Boy, and they'd be doing all this kind of stuff, And so I'd go in and watch. They didn't have stage lighting at that point. They had these huge pieces of plywood with the gigantic lights. I mean, they were, 600 watt. I mean, it looks like, nuclear holocaust. It's like, geez, So he's in there doing the thing. Hey, Beanie, and the puppet starts, and he goes, oh, shit. And as a kid, it was like, God, this is cool. Puppets in bad language, And of course, my mom was like, you're not going on that set again. So I grew up in that. And, so the celeb kind of thing, I mean, people would ask for my dad's autograph and stuff, and I never quite, it was like, he'd still whip my butt at home or what, it was just your dad. It was the same thing with my kids. They could carry, their friends would go, God, can we go to the studio? And it was like, I don't want to go, it's stupid, it's boring, Anyway, did that, went to, college, got a Bachelor of Arts, or AA degree in broadcasting, a BA in mass communications, thought I was going to take the world by storm, did radio in all these hotbeds of media stuff like Wyoming, Colorado, Utah, Oregon, Washington, San Francisco. And then, but my first love was always production. So doing, and even on the air, I had a cast of characters that I would bring in and do, which the audience loved. Management, well, not that much. The door would usually fly open. I can't believe you just said that. Now apologize on the air. And I just read at that time, it was very unstable. It was like, we just want you to meet with a consultant. It's like, let me get my stuff and put it in the car because we know where this is going. And so when I came back up to LA after doing all this, I BS'd my way into a huge music studio at the time, which was like the spot. In fact, I almost knocked Pat Benatar over coming out. It was like, oh my God, wow, this is incredible. And they wanted to start a media studio, Studio 5, and doing radio commercials, TV spots, album spots. So they figured they could tie it in with Warner Brothers, and we do a spot for Rod Stewart's new album, that kind of stuff. And it fell flat. They realized very quickly that they could make a lot more money doing a lockout with a band, because at that time they were still paying, obscene amounts of money. It was like, well, we give you, a $2 million advance, that kind of thing. And they'd basically just do massive amounts of cocaine and hang out. So how, I don't know, but I met a lot of really wonderful, in fact, I met my first agent, Don Pitts, who is an absolute iconic, really legendary voiceover agent in town. And I remember sitting in his office, and it was like, Orson Welles and Casey Kasem and Gary Owens. And it was just like, oh my God. I mean, it was pretty magnificent. Mel Blanc. I mean, it was pretty staggering. And June Foray. And anyway, started there. And then I basically, when they folded that, don't ask me how, I actually talked them into selling me the entire studio on credit that I had none of, which was non-existent. And I actually was living in this just crappy guest house behind a landlord who would come out and my yard, and build literally half the house took up, it was a studio. And so that's how I actually started, a great big console of machines, and it took off there, did well enough that I moved into a little building on Hollywood Boulevard and North Gramercy Place, and then doubled in size, tripled in size, quadrupled in size, and then it got a little rough. I still remember Julie Andrews walking in very prim and proper. Hey, bitch! It's like, oh my God. No, and she was very classy and just kind of let it stuff off. I was like, oh boy. But did well enough there that I ended up moving the place out to Burbank, which at the time seemed like the hell and gone. It was like, oh my God, Burbank from Hollywood. I mean, it's over the hill, and I've been out there ever since, Yeah. And the voice-wise, interesting, I've done a ton of voices and all kinds of stuff and jobs. I'd never auditioned for anything. And somebody had said, you really should get out and see, they're holding general auditions at Hanna-Barbera.
Oh, wow.
I was like, cool. And the director at that time was Gordon Hunt, Helen Hunt's dad. All of the people that you see, Andrea Romano and most of the Chris Zimmerman, all started out as like assistants for Gordon. And so I had no idea how it worked. So I wrote this script. It was, I think they thought I was on crack. It was like, now we'll have to find the great knower of stuff. You may call me great. Yes, no, one great is enough. I mean, it was just, but they said, my goodness, you get yourself an agent. We'll have it out here working tomorrow. And it was like, wow. So I called Don, my friend at that point, Pitts, and Don said, yeah, come on. Hey, Mark, how are you? Nice sweater. Kind of, that was Don, and signed me. And that's how that started.
Man, so how much of your work now is direct marketing versus agency?
Direct marketing, not really. I don't. I mean, it's because you have an agent that handles it, and two, I mean, I've been very, very, very fortunate. I've been doing this actually coming up on 48 years, and so at this point, reputation-wise, et cetera, it's lucky enough that it still kind of just comes to you. And the interesting thing career-wise is that it's been intermingled as a producer, a director, as talent, as data. So it's kind of, it gives you a little bit different skew on stuff. It's not just like going to the booth and dealing with this director, it's that, but sometimes that director is now at my studio, so I'm sitting in the control, kind of, seeing what the action is on this side of the glass. So it's a little different perspective.
So how much of your director perspective helps like with your audition process whenever you are submitting auditions? Like
very much so. It really, the whole key with an audition is don't, people, it's very funny. You get a script and, you're gregarious, you've got this great sense of, personality, sense of time. You put a script in front of you and it's like, oh, okay, you're filling out a financial form. And it's like everybody gets all, oh, don't color outside the lines. And it's like, what? It's no different than if you're doing, it's on camera night and it's monologue night. Well, you don't want to get up and do exactly verbatim what the 8, 10, 12 people in front of you did. You want to bring you to it. So that's the same sense with this, with the script. And it's interesting. It's even more of a challenge now because you don't get to work the room. It's not like you're walking in and the casting director goes, hey, Mark, how you been? Oh, yeah, we work together on da-da-da, whatever. And you've got people there that are mingling. And now everything is based off of an MP3. So the essence of you needs to come through that. Everybody has the same script. So what are you going to do to make that thing shine and really go, whoa, come here, you got to check this guy out. And that's the key.
So in your coaching, how are you kind of teaching your students how to make themselves shine through with just that MP3?
Just that. There's all kinds of nifty little tricks that you can do that, things a lot of the time you'll see a lot of stuff now that's not slating. Also, direction. You can kind of tell. The interesting thing with direction, many, many, many times you'll get, 3/4 of the page's backstory. He was born on the planet Flarkets and raised by the Clicky people. That's great. What kind of voice do you want? Then when he was younger, he moved to the dead and lived in a forest with elves. That's great. What kind of voice do you want? Then he moved, so it kind of goes and goes and goes. And I get that. The backstory is wonderful. But what happens is, if they knew really specifically what they wanted, it's not like they couldn't just go hire that person.
Right.
So the key, and we've all done that as talent, where this was the direction, and then you hear it and go, I could have done Gay Jamaican. Why didn't they tell me that? I mean, it's whatever it is, So
Right.
it's like, what the hell? And we've all done that, where you've seen or heard the spot and gone, geez, man, that's 180 degrees out of where they were originally, where the direction was going. So I always look, direction is very much like Pirates of the Caribbean. Well, it's not exactly rules; it's more guidelines, and that's really what it is. It's like, you don't want to go off base and be crazy and make anybody upset. But the key to this, everybody has the same copy, so bring you to it. That's the only thing that's different. Your pacing, your interpretation, your timing, all of that. And then there's certain things to overcome, because we all have it. You have a very specific way when you read out loud, you're going to punch this word, and it doesn't, and then let's do take 2, and you're going to punch this word, and let's do take 3. You're going to punch this word, because brain, that seems very natural to you. So it's overcoming that and changing that up, where all of a sudden, if you're punctuating, it's something, a different word, phrasing is different, timing, pacing, all of that. And that's what really gives you a lot of the time we think we're doing a different take, and it's like, no, all you did basically was you were loud and quiet, so, and it's not necessarily that different. The other thing I always suggest is if you have, unless voice matching, that's a whole different beast, obviously, then it needs to be not close, it needs to be dead on. I'm a terrible voice matcher. It's like I'll go in and go, yes, and come out and go, oh, hell no, we're not sending that, but it's like you'll get YouTube links, and it's like, but it's like William H. Macy, if he had, Wilford Brimley's voice from way back when, except comedy timing like Jim Carrey, but a voice like James Earl Jones. It's like, who are we talking to now, Fiddle? I mean, it's kind of all over the place. And what happens is that now every take you do is simply going to be a bad impression of what you just heard. So I call it road mapping. Road map the copy. Go through. You can tell the way copy is written. Is this guy swarmy? Is he straight up? Is it commercial? Is it, everybody talks about the authentic read, which is very true on some pieces. If it's a piece where you're talking about cancer or, a headache or something, but it's personal, it's like, or you're talking to people that are going through that. It's very authentic, it's from the heart, and that's what you're selling is emotion. But if it's, some silly, kind of off the cuff, kind of spot. I mean, Patrick Warburton has made bazillions doing his John Wayne impression, kind of, but he's that kind of cocky thing that he does.
Yeah, that little cocky
great.
little.
Yeah, but his timing is great, and he does awesome with that. But I wouldn't call that an authentic read. So it really depends on what that copy is. People have a tendency in this business to generalize and go, oh, okay, well, this is what it is. And it's like, in some instances, yes. but a lot not. It's,
Mhm.
video games, animation, if you're doing a demo, it's not quantity, it's quality. I've had people that I do it dead on Homer Simpson. Joe, Joe. And it's like, well, that wasn't dead on, and Dan's not going anywhere. So why put it on there? You know. And so it's just, it's be true to thine own self. Do what you do and just do it a notch better. If you sing and sing well, then do that as a a ballad kind of thing. If you sing crappy, like in my case, then I'll sing in character and sing
Mhm.
about toe jam and boogers or something wonderful. It just depends on what it is. So it's just doing what you do. That's all.
Gotcha. And I heard from a student of yours that a tip that you suggested was reading the lines out of sequence.
Well, if it's video game,
Hmm.
that's certain because the video game lines are not interconnected. I mean, unless it says ongoing, continued, 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 line two may not happen for another 40 minutes in the game. The only reason I say that is, again, that if you start with line two and then go up to the top, well, that's very different than what everybody else is going to do. And it's not like, oh my God, he started on the second line. It's like you're still reading the same, it just makes them go, oh, what's this? It's different. That's all, even though it's still their copy and embellishing. It's like ad-libbing. Ad-libbing is great if you do it and do it well, but ad-libbing is not like, oh, I'm going to put in a laugh, or gosh, gee, I was thinking. That's not an ad-lib. It
Right.
needs to be relatable to that first line. And sometimes there's a good place to do that, and sometimes it's not. If you're doing promos aren't a good spot to be doing ad libs. They're more looking like, shave a tenth of a second off.
Gotcha. So you've also produced a lot of demos, and I've heard a lot of the demos that you've produced. I've heard Randy Thomas's demo that you produced. I heard Joe DiMaggio's demo that you produced. What made you want to start getting into the demo production game?
Again, primarily when it first started with radio, it was because that was a good place to hide. I could go in the production, turn the light on, so nobody's going to come in, and they'd leave you alone. But I've always enjoyed. There's something inherently wonderful about, you know, creating emotion and taking someone's voice. And I've had people literally standing there crying, going, "Oh my God, this is just," because you really kept, absolutely nailed the emotion.
Hmm.
You just can, and that's, you really captured that. And when you do, uh, that in turn, it's no different than a joke. If something's funny, if you laugh, chances are the other people are going to laugh as well. And that's a good thing. And it's fun. It's creative as far as writing. It's a creative endeavor because you have kind of control over what you want to do, like making a gag out of something that maybe isn't funny. So when you're directing a session, you're actually thinking in terms of, okay, this is kind of what's going to, so it's not just here's this, here's this, here's this, but in terms of, okay, so this will be really cool because I can end on that and it'll roll into this. And you'll notice most of the demos it sounds like all the pieces are supposed to fit where they are,
Hmm.
because it just kind of rolls. It's not jarring. And that's the key, is just to make it one nice hit play and keep your fingers off the pause button.
Right.
That's what we're looking to do.
So what do you do outside of the booth? Like what, I mean, a lot of people are very familiar with your work, including me, but
Mhm.
what does Marc Graue do to recharge his batteries outside of the booth? What do you enjoy?
It's funny because with COVID, I've got like a 650 square foot gym here at the house. It's got all that and all that stuff. The problem is, since I haven't been able to do any, but it's a nice thing to get the blah, because it's like, which we all do. It's interesting. And then you'll notice that, online has got very vindictive. I did a Trump parody for Bill Maher, for
I know
example.
you were nominated for it.
Yeah, and I got within 45 minutes, probably 20,000 death threats. People were just like, "Look, it's not funny," and it's like, just, so it's weird that the country is, and I think a lot of that has to do with internet, because it's very, well, you don't agree with me, screw you, delete. So everybody's got these little camps. No, the creative stuff, I like doing that. Music wise is kind of fun. So I do that. I've got guitars that I'm not good by any means. I mean, good enough that I can stumble along, but that kind of stuff. I've got an absolutely gorgeous yard, with a waterfall that you can swim back behind and stuff. And so that's a kind of, that's the other thing. I can't get in that yet either because of incision stuff. So it's like, so I have all this cool shit I can't use. It's great. But travel, used to love that, obviously not doing much of that now. So really, kind of like everybody else is doing, just kind of hanging in there and trying to get my, I'm not a gamer. I mean, I've done a zillion games. I saw somebody saying, oh, well, you can't really do games unless you play them. And it's like, well, that's a crock of crap. I mean, you have it, it's like I'm too old, my fingers are too fat. You have a director telling you what's going, oh, okay, sure. And it's being really prepared, for whatever comes your way. Realize that in this, our job is to fit what they want. And if they go, I just had one that's a big game that's coming out. And it was like, can you make this so like he just ate the guy, but he's puking up the bones? It was like, you guys really need to get out more, maybe discover girls or something. Quit living in your mom's basement. But it's like, yeah, sure. And so don't get thrown off and go, deer in the headlights. Well, that's not really one of the things. It's like, why not? Just be prepared for whatever comes. I had talked a little bit about that too, the redundancy, even equipment wise. Be prepared for whatever comes up. I had a session, Source Connect just wouldn't work. Evidently, this is interesting, which I didn't know. Source Connect is mostly Mac, works seamlessly with Mac. But if you're locking up with a PC, I guess they have a different platform that's Linux or something. So it sometimes gets wanky. That's why to save it, just ended up doing a Zoom direct session, recorded a Pro Tools and sent them files, and everybody was happy. But it's like, just be prepared for whatever may come. Do you know what I mean? So that you can, so it's not like, and something completely throws you off your game and you're not sure what to do. The thing is too, is that, there is more to this, and not, not trying to sound, or this, that, or the other thing. And I understand financial things as far as people, not having money, but you can't, I've had people, so I really want to get into voiceover and like record stuff on my phone. And it's like, well, you're competing with people that have major set, and talk to some people in the business that can kind of point you in the right direction. You just assume, ooh, I just upgraded to it's like a Radio Shack mic. It's like, well, there's an upgrade. I mean, it's and not, I understand it gets expensive, but if you're throwing your hat in the ring and if you want to compete at that level, it's going to cost you a little bit of money to do that. It doesn't mean you have to spend a fortune, not at all, but at the same time, if you're serious about doing this, throwing your USB mic and hooking that up to your PC, which is the fans going, and there's cars going, I did that. I got very cocky here and thought, ooh, I'm building my studio in the pool house. Yeah, I'm all that. And so I got it all set, and it was tonight on here go the blowers. It was like, welcome to Los Angeles. I mean, when the gardeners, it was like, I think we'll go back in the house. So, but it's really, just having kind of a contingency plan in the back. If something comes up, it's like, oh yeah, sure, just a workaround, just in case, I've got, a situation here where I've got a whole nother iMac and stuff sitting in another one. So it's like, if we can do, boom, yep, we're going, let's go,
Right.
And just, being prepared, but it really do something different, maybe think a little outside of what's on the script, and that doesn't mean going off into La La Land and doing a bunch of stuff that makes no sense whatsoever. You still need to stick to what's going on. But it's like, if it's an animation script, well, maybe if you're replying to a character, what if you use his name? It's not, oh my God, he called him by name. It's like, well, you guys named the character. I mean, it's not like that's all of a sudden going to be a huge, but it just sets you a little bit apart. That's all.
Gotcha. Man, you were just full of knowledge. If you were to...
Well, that's one way of putting it. I've heard it. Oh, sorry.
You were to take a letter, and you were to write yourself a letter and then send it back in time to your radio days, and you were to give yourself a piece of knowledge, what would that letter say?
Keep the prize in mind. Know that if you realize that VO people, we all started at the same point. We started the same place. Right. And so, but everybody has that thing where they're looking, oh, well, boy, he's in this and that. And it's like, yes, have I been successful? Yes, I have. And I feel great about it. However, realize that it's taken 48 years to get there.
Right.
But it's a great business. It's paid through, 2 divorces, 4 houses, put 3 kids through college. So, I mean, life is, it's fine. But realize that light at the end, it's never a direct line. You'll be over here, you'll be over there. Just keep your, can it happen quickly? Certainly. Chances are it won't. It's going to take some time. But, you can always do it. A great example is my son, when he was born, he has cerebral palsy. And people go, oh, God. It's like, there's no, oh, God, it's great. However, when the doctors came in, it was like on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the worst, he's about an 11. So he's never going to walk. He won't speak. He won't, do this, do that. And, you go through the tears as a dad. And then it's like, and for me, that's about 30 seconds. And it's like, okay, that's a hand that's dealt. And again, you can either go to this path, which is light, and okay, that's the hand that's dealt. What are we going to do? Or you can do the morose, oh, shit. Oh, and turn into Eeyore. Well, I might as well take my old gray ass outside. It's like, no, So now he goes on tour with Jacqueline Smith from Charlie's Angels and speaks in front of thousands of people for Special Olympics and does all, way ahead of like, well, that's very interesting for a kid that would never walk, never speak, never,
Right.
So you can always take, that too bad. You can either look at the positive, and especially with COVID and stuff right now, it's pretty easy to lock into the negatives and go, oh God, I don't know how I'm going to do this. I just, but there is always, just sit down and go, okay, well, that's the hand that was dealt. So, okay, you know what, instead of this, now I'm going to do this, but it's still going to get me to that point where I want to be. It's just not necessarily going to be the same route. Instead of flying first class, well, I may have to take a bus and hitchhike a couple of miles, but I will get there.
Right. Well, thanks for coming on, man. I really appreciate
My
it.
pleasure. Absolutely, buddy. I was thrilled. Thank you so much for having me.
I really hope you enjoyed listening to Marc talk about his start in the voiceover industry and how time, energy, and dedication to the craft have made him one of the most iconic voices of our time. If you'd like to know more about Marc, you can visit him at www.marcgraue.com. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to the Voiceover Coffee Shop. For more information on guests, new episodes, and more, be sure to visit www.vocoffeeshop.com.